the great horror month of October. I hope everyone out there in YouTube land was having fun overloading on horror movies and candy each day of the previous month. I've been a bit slower than normal to put anything out, as the last month has been filled with activities that has taken up all of my time. Anyway, this video however I will be talking about the big event of the year for me, which is the Ramaskrik Horror Movie Festival, held in a small town called Oppdal here in Norway. Ramaskrik, which would be literally translated into outcry in English, is the biggest horror festival we have in Norway, and the good folks behind it has been running this event for 6 years straight now. It is an amazing event that I cannot recommend enough for Norwegians or foreigners to come and check out, as they actually managed to get the entire village behind this and provide a fun weekend for the fans from all over the country. There are so many parts involved getting this thing to run as smooth and great as it does each year, and everyone involved in making Ramaskrik work should get a tremendous amount of praise. The main focus of the festival is to screen new horror films. This year they had an impressive amount of 24 horror films from all over the world ready to screen during the 4-day-long event. This is the 4th year in a row that I'm traveling the 8-hour-long train ride from my city of Moss up to Oppdal to participate and enjoy horror with a crowd of like-minded people. We started our travel early on Thursday morning in order to get as many movies as possible in already from the very first day. I ended up seeing a total amount of 16 films during these 4 days, and here I present to you some very quick reviews of each of the films. The first movie I saw this year was a small little movie called Blair Witch. Blair Witch is a direct sequel to the surprise hit movie The Blair Witch Project from 1999. This one ignores the events of the original sequel, which was poorly received upon release. This one is done by the talented duo of screenwriter Simon Barrett and director Adam Wingard. It plays like The Force Awakens did to the first Star Wars movie, as it follows the same beats, although things have changed quite a bit regarding the found footage genre since 1999, so of course this one is spiced up with more effects and attempts at scares. It didn't really succeed in being scary, although it did came close to make me feel some chills during the final act. It is a fun movie to see in a theater, but nothing groundbreaking or anything that will leave a big mark on the genre like the original did. But then again, that would be a lot to demand from it. Blair Witch is solid and fun, and it gets a 3.5 from me. I followed up Blair Witch with something completely different with The Similars, or Los Parecidos, which is the original title. The Similars is a Mexican fantasy sci-fi movie that reminds me of The Outer Limits. It takes place back in the 60s, where a group of people are stuck together at a train station due to a terrible storm. Things turn weird when their faces start to shift into this long-haired, bearded face. It's all very bizarre, and although the idea sounds funny on paper, the execution here did nothing for me. Frankly, The Similars were just too boring and silly for my taste. I saw 2 movies from Mexico during this festival, and sadly both would disappoint me. The Similars only gets a 1.5. Train to Busan was the official opening movie of the festival, and also one of the films I was anticipating the most. And let me just say this. If you used to be a fan of zombie movies but got bored of all the crappy ones that we have had to endure the last years, then Train to Busan is a movie for you. This South Korean effort had everything you could want from a cinematic experience. It is exciting, intense, funny, and even emotional. You care for the characters even when you see their flaws early on. The actress who played the little girl had to give one of the best child actor performances I've seen in a very long time. The scream she delivers during the final part gets right into the core of your soul. There are still plenty of other movies from this year that I need to see, but so far, and I doubt anything else we get from it, Train to Busan is the best movie 2016, perhaps the best movie I've seen the last few years. It gets a 5 out of 5. See it as soon as possible, and preferably in theaters. Ending the night of day 1 was another anticipated movie for me. The Autopsy of Jane Doe has gotten some pretty good praise during its festival run so far. What's extra fun for me is of course that it is directed by the Norwegian Andre Øvredal, who by the way also came as a guest of the festival to talk about the film and was also available for a Q&A after the movie. He also did the brilliant Troll Hunter a few years back, and as he himself said, Autopsy was something quite different. It is not a very scary film, but just a very well made film that are interesting and keeps you guessing along the way. From talking to others at the festival, it seems like this one was the best received film of the year. Personally, I like Train to Busan more than this, but I enjoyed the Autopsy of Jane Doe enough to give it a 4 out of 5. After not being able to get up in time for breakfast due to being hungover after devouring beers like a madman on the night before, I started day 2 off with a news output from Rob Zombie. I figured this wouldn't exactly be a movie that required a lot of brain activity, and I was right in that regards. While I'm not very fond of zombies movies, I did enjoy The Lords of Salem quite a bit, so I had hopes that he had progressed as a filmmaker. 31 did not follow that progression, as it is more a return to form of his start with House of Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. He's trying to be a silly gore fest, but somehow actually lacks the gore. All of the characters are idiots and they just want to get killed off as quickly as possible. The bad guys are mostly over the top and cartoonish, except for the only positive aspect of the movie, which was the performance of Richard Blake as Doomhead. 31 was just awful, and I actually hoped that I would fall asleep during the screening of it. You might like it more than me if you're into the previously mentioned Rob Zombie films, but for me this stinker only gets a 1 out of 5. Next up was the Australian Christmas slasher movie Red Christmas. This one has Scream Queen Dee Wallace both in it and in a producer role. Sadly, this movie did not know what it was supposed to be. On one hand, it has some comedic elements that could have been the basis for a funny Christmas horror film, but on the other hand, they had some heavy topics thrown into the mix. It all ends up being a mess of a film, which sucks as there was some potential to the production to begin with. Red Christmas only gets a poor 2 out of 5. After not having the best start of the day with 2 poor movies in a row, I was hoping that the newest giallo effort called Francesca would turn my day around. Fans of this subgenre have been hoping for decades that it will return and blossom, but I've had mostly disappointments each time a new one has been released. This one is directed by Luciano Onetti, who also did another giallo called Deep Sleep a few years back. I have not seen that one, and after watching Francesca, I am not even sure I ever will. Francesca was just bad. The story is a very simple murder mystery type of deal, which is fine, and stylistically, Onetti tries to go 70s by making it look old and ugly. I think this choice of style was a misfire, as it just doesn't look good at all, and yeah, I guess that is the point. But does anyone believe that the makers of giallos back in the 70s wanted the movie to look like this? If Francesca had at least some interesting filming style to it, then perhaps I could be convinced, but no. Francesca disappointed big time and only gets a 1.5. Every year, the festival brings back an old classic to display on the big screen, and I love these screenings as it gives me an opportunity to see movies that I love on the big screen for the first time. The classic of this year was The Omen from 1976. I've seen The Omen and its sequels several times over the years, and while I absolutely think it deserves the stamp of being a classic, I wish I went with something a little more energetic, just because I don't think the younger crowd that also came to these screenings will enjoy this one that much. Well, personally, I of course did enjoy it, as it is a great film and it was a nice experience to see it on the big screen, and especially enjoy the soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith loud and clear. There are parts of The Omen that is a bit dated, but it is still a great film. The Omen gets a 4 out of 5. And that was the end of day 2. After another round of beers during the night, I not only missed a hotel breakfast this time, but also the earliest movie screenings that I had planned on seeing. I did make it to the second one though, and this was another classic movie. This one being the first horror film created in my home country of Norway. De Døde Stjern, or Lake of the Dead as the English title says, was presented by Christer Bakke Andresen, who has a PhD in something I can't translate into English, but it is film related. He gave a 20 minutes introduction of the movie by going through the brief and few horror films that our country has produced and what stands out in Norwegian horror films. I have been doing a standalone video review for this film, so I won't talk much of it here, except that it's a well written and fun film that goes lightly on the horror element. I thought it was great and my final score for it was a 4 out of 5, And if you're interested in learning more about the film, then check out my other video on the movie. The Untamed is the second Mexican movie I watched this festival. It is not really horror, but rather art house with some sci-fi elements to it. It explores happiness, sexual desires and personal subjects such as that. It is well made, but it's just not a movie for me. If you're into the more artsy type of films that explores how we work as humans, then by all means give it a go. It's sort of perfect film club type of movie, if that makes any sense. For me though, I was hoping it would be over a bit quicker, as it failed in keeping me interested in what was going on. It gets a low score of 2 out of 5, but for the right crowd this should do better. The Greasy Strangler is the absolute opposite of The Untamed. This one goes straight for comedy and fun and don't care about reality or exploring deep topics. I was very curious about this film and I read positive things about it before going to this festival. It is made by the production company called Spectrovision, which has been responsible for quite a few interesting movies over the last few years. The Greasy Strangler is a very odd movie and you have to be into dick and fart jokes in order to enjoy it. I thought the humor was a bit too repetitive and some of the plot was just a bit too mean-spirited for me to laugh at. I'd say if you think the trailer looks fun, then by all means give it a go. It was just another movie that wasn't made for me. So The Greasy Strangler gets a 2 out of 5. Now this screening was an interesting one. Howl is a British werewolf movie that takes place mostly within a train. So the good folks at the festival set up a small train cart where they screened the movie in. It was crammed with people as it obviously couldn't have that many in there at once, and I'm guessing around 25 persons per screening. And there was the problem with not being able to see the entire screen if you have a big person in front of you, but it was still a fun experience. Luckily for me, I had a good view of the film, which turned out to be an okay movie. Maybe happy that I don't have to deal with people face to face in my job every day, as the film makes all the characters riding the train out to be assholes. In fact, the movie can be viewed as a revenge film, where shitty customers, or passengers in this case, get slaughtered one by one, to much cheer from every person who has ever worked in customer service watching the film. The creatures looked a bit different than the standard werewolves, more mutated than straight up wolves. My main problem with Howl is that it is missing what Train to Busan had: compelling characters. And that's why Howl will only get a 2.5 out of 5. Scare Campaign is an Australian movie that takes the reality TV genre and bloodies it up a bit. I was a bit wary before going into this film, but it surprised me and turned out to be quite fun. There are some twists and turns in it that I didn't care for, and I would rather have them stretch the first half of the film a bit more instead of going down the road they decided to go on. But even so, it had some fun stuff in it, good characters, especially the badass Abigail, and it was not a bad way at all to end the third day of the festival before once again heading out for more beers. Scare Campaign gets a fun 3 out of 5. Sunday and final day of the festival. Surprisingly enough, there was still plenty of people here for the Sunday screenings. The first film being screened was a Dutch fantasy slasher movie called The Windmill Massacre, or just The Windmill according to IMDb. This was another screening with a special guest in the audience, as director Nick Jongerius came all the way from Netherlands to speak to us regarding this new movie. What this movie has got going for it, except the fact that the first half of it is shot in the lovely city of Amsterdam, is that the characters are all very different from each other and well acted. The fantasy element of the story kind of brought it down a bit for me, as I would have actually preferred this one to go the straight slash route. Even so, the movie is fun and worth checking out. So, The Windmill Massacre gets a 3 out of 5. The second movie of the day also had special guests, as the 2 leading actresses from Bodom, or Lake Bodom as it is being released as internationally, was presented to introduce the film. Bodom is the first horror movie I've seen coming out from the Nordic brothers in Finland, although I do know that they have made other horror movies in the past. It starts out very cliché-like by having a group of teens going out to the woods to have some good old camping fun. Things take several turns and twists though, as these characters have some secrets going on, which will reveal that not all of them are out there with the best intentions. Bodom is a competently made film, but it tries to do a bit too much in my opinion. I didn't care much for some of the big twists it takes, and the story is a bit lackluster, but although the acting is quite good, and watching a horror film from Finland was a fun experience. Bodom is worth checking out, and I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. So, the last and final screening of Ramaskrik also happened to be one of the films I was anticipating the most for this year, namely Under the Shadow. The film is set in Iran during the war of the 1980s and manages to balance out the political stuff of the time period with supernatural events that take place here. The film is very well made, but what brought it down was the fact that the horror elements didn't go all the way. It gets a bit under your skin, but then shortly after loses any tension that has used time to build up. It's also a very slow burner of a movie, and that might put some people off, but I had no problem with that part as there was a lot of interesting things going on with the main character, Shedai. It has some similarities to the Babadook actually, so if you enjoy that one, then Under the Shadow might be something for you. I only wish that this one would be a bit more scary. Other than that, Under the Shadow is a solid film, and I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. So there we go, that's all the movies I managed to catch this year at the Ramaskrik. The movies that were being shown but I didn't catch for whatever reason was Don't Breathe, Follow, Honeymoon, Night of the Living Dead, Ouija Origin of Evil, Pet, The Resort, and Seoul Station. Other than the full movies, there was also screenings of several short films before some of the movies. I might go back and do more regarding those ones in another video about short films at some point. The only complaint I've had about Ramaskrik in the previous year is that there was no selling of movies there before. This year, however, they had a huge collection of DVDs and Blu-rays from the best company around up here, Another World Entertainment, for sale, and I of course took the opportunity to stack up on releases that I didn't already have by them. Hopefully they will be there next year as well. So there you have it, my full report of the fantastic days I had at the Ramaskrik 2016. I cannot stress it enough that this is the place to be each year if you're a Norwegian horror fan. Check the description below for links to their full site and Facebook page, and if you are from this country then make sure to check it out in 2017. I will be there for sure and celebrating going there for the 5th year in a row. So, do you have any horror festivals near you that you would like to recommend? How about putting up a link to their site down in the comment section below, as I would love to take a look at it. Any other films I saw that you would want me to do a full video review of? Feel free to suggest it, and as always, subscribe to my channel to keep yourself up to date on my future content. Thank you.